Well, this is not the first time Cleveland has hosted a major political party national convention.
Yeah, Republicans, they were here in 1924 as well as 1936. In his My Ohio series today, our Leon Bibb looks back at that first convention back in 1924, Leon.
Indeed, you're right. 1924 Cleveland was significant in so many ways. Unusual, too. It marked first time women played a part. And Cleveland weather played a part, too. Let's get into my way back time machine and look at what was yesterday compared to what is today.
The Cleveland newspaper is front to back with accounts of the upcoming Republican National Convention. Photographs show Cleveland high points. The idea is for the city to extend its welcoming hand. But wait, this is a newspaper from 1924. Yet more than 90 years later, Cleveland photographs are strikingly familiar in spots. Much of what was in 1924 still is today. All this helped set the stage for the 1924 Republican National Convention in Cleveland. Politicians came way back then because they knew
the Roaring '20s are beginning to roar in the city.
Cleveland's first National Party convention was in '24. Not counting suburbs, the city boasted a population of more than 800,000. Population growth did not occur overnight. Cleveland had been on a track as a booming city well before that. Exemplifying that, an actor portraying the part of 1901 Cleveland Mayor Tom L. Johnson entertains downtown sidewalks. 1900s Cleveland set the stage for what would come later.
It was they who elected me 4 times. It was they who enabled me to bring electricity and clean water to the neighborhoods.
From the days mentioned here, Cleveland skyrocketed. By the time of the Republican convention in '24, Cleveland was the 5th largest city in the U.S.
1924, we were like a New York or a San Francisco or an L.A. We were already on the top, so it was expected a city like Cleveland would have been hosting that convention.
Much of what Cleveland publicized for the '24 convention still exists. Interesting to compare East 6th Street looking north. That's City Hall in the distance. Euclid Avenue viewed from the Soldiers and Sailors Monument on Public Square. 1924 Cleveland advertised the brand new development of suburban Shaker Heights. And something else, Cleveland advertised to get that convention weather. The city's July weather was promoted to get Republicans to the city. Now, mind you, these were the days before air conditioning.
The Cleveland skyline has changed over the generations, but our story is of 1924. 1924, summers could be blistering hot inside a public hall without air conditioning. But Cleveland actually sold its weather to the Republican Party, saying, have your convention in Cleveland and enjoy the cool breezes which come off Lake Erie in July. Before air conditioning, of course. Republicans came, perhaps because of those breezes off Lake Erie. 1924.
Cleveland was also promoted as a vibrant pace-setter in the Roaring '20s, manufacturing and business powerhouse. Plans had been laid for Cleveland's Union Railroad Terminal and the skyscraper above it to soon stretch as tallest building between New York and Chicago. And public auditorium, even before air conditioning, a gemstone, hot or not.
So what we're looking at here is an interior view of the Cleveland Public Auditorium during the 1924 Republican Convention.
This is a brand new facility.
Relatively new facility. One of the biggest facilities of its kind that you could find.
Today's Cleveland is built on its yesterdays. Beneath concrete and steel is a strong history. Some of that history came also as social changes beginning to stir in the wind. The '24 Republican Convention marked the first one since women had won the right to vote 4 years before.
And one of the features of this convention was that the Republican Party made sure that women acted as hostesses for each of the 50 state delegations. Well, I'm sorry, 48 state delegations.
This year, the world will tune in to the Republican National Convention. The world will see Cleveland through television and radio, satellite, digital, and all of it, listening and looking at what goes on in this city. But in 1924, it was a lot different. Fact of the matter is, 1924, first ever commercial radio coverage of any political convention was right here.
It was fed over telephone lines to 9 other cities, brought national attention to the city.
The new age of radio, And Cleveland pulsed as the world tuned in. In the roaring 20s, Cleveland flexed manufacturing muscle, economic enterprise, and political power. This is Leon Bibb in my Ohio and your Ohio, looking at how the Republican Party of 24 selected Cleveland as it would again in 1936 and again in 2016. All for the same reasons. Cleveland had a lot to offer.
In 1924, Republicans nominated President Calvin Coolidge, who had assumed the presidency when Ohio's Warren G. Harding died in office. So Ohio was key, still is. Some things don't change. 92 years later, the Republican Party is in Cleveland once again. I'm Leon Bibb, reminding you that unlike in 24, when convention coverage electronically was some radio, we in television and digital will keep you covered wall to wall.